What's up, Bears Nation? Welcome back to Bears News Fan Report, your home for everything Chicago Bears. I'm here every single day bringing you the latest updates, breaking news, and insider analysis on our beloved team. Today, I've got something that's going to shake up how you think about this roster moving forward. This isn't just another game preview or injury report. We're talking about a situation that's been brewing all season long, something that could fundamentally alter the direction of this franchise and the offensive identity we've been trying to build. I need you to stay with me through this entire breakdown, because what I'm about to reveal is going to spark some serious debate among Bears fans, and you're going to want all the context before you make up your mind about where we go from here. Let me set the stage for you. The Chicago Bears are getting ready to take on the Cleveland Browns this Sunday in what's shaping up to be a crucial matchup for both teams. Now, anytime we face an opponent, there are always key players to watch, matchups to analyze, and storylines to follow. But this week, there's one particular Bears player who absolutely needs to step up and deliver a performance that reminds everyone why he was brought to Chicago in the first place. I'm talking about someone who was supposed to be a cornerstone of this offense, a proven playmaker with a track record of elite production, someone who signed a massive contract extension just months ago with the expectation that he'd be our number one weapon for years to come. But here's the thing, and this is where it gets uncomfortable. This season has not gone according to plan for this player, not even close. Last week against the Green Bay Packers, a game that was absolutely critical for our playoff hopes, this guy managed just one catch. One. And here's the kicker, that one reception went for -4 yards, -4 yards. Think about that for a second. Your supposed top receiver, the guy making elite money, finishes a division game with negative yardage. That's not just a bad game. That's a complete disappearing act when your team needed you most. And unfortunately, that performance against Green Bay wasn't an isolated incident. It's been part of a disturbing pattern that's developed throughout this entire season. Through 13 games, we're looking at 39 catches for 498 yards and 3 touchdowns. Now, for a lot of receivers in this league, those would be respectable numbers. But for a player of this caliber, for someone who's been to Pro Bowls and put up elite production year after year, these numbers represent by far the least productive campaign of his entire NFL career. We're talking about a massive drop-off from what we've seen in the past, and it's raising some serious questions about what's going wrong and whether it can be fixed. So why is this happening? What's changed? Well, there are multiple factors at play here, and we need to examine each one honestly if we're going to understand the full picture. First, let's talk about the offensive system. When this player arrived in Chicago back in March of 2023, he walked into a situation where he could be the clear-cut number one option. The offense was designed to get him the ball in space, to utilize his elite route-running ability, and to maximize his yards after catch potential. And you know what? It worked brilliantly. In his first season with the Bears, he absolutely balled out with 96 receptions for 1,364 yards and 8 touchdowns. That was the kind of production we expected, the kind of performance that justified the blockbuster trade that brought him here from Carolina. But then something changed. We drafted Caleb Williams with the first overall pick, brought in a rookie quarterback who's still learning the NFL game, still figuring out how to read defenses at this level, still developing chemistry with his receivers. And ever since Williams took over as our starting quarterback, the production and efficiency for our top receiver have absolutely cratered. Now, I'm not here to throw Caleb under the bus. He's a rookie, dealing with a ton of pressure and a coaching situation that's been less than ideal. But the reality is that the connection between quarterback and receiver just hasn't been there this season, and it's affecting everyone involved. There's also the matter of scheme fit, and this is where things get really interesting. The Bears have been adding young talent to the receiving corps over the past couple of drafts. We've got Rome Odunze, who we selected in the first round of the 2024 draft and who's shown flashes of being a legitimate number one receiver down the road. We've got guys like Luther Burden and Colston Loveland, who are being groomed as key pieces of this offense moving forward. And here's the uncomfortable truth that's starting to emerge. Maybe our current top receiver isn't as natural a fit in this offensive system as these younger players are. Maybe the style of routes he runs, the way he operates within the structure of the offense, just doesn't mesh as well with what the coaching staff wants to do. And that brings me to the elephant in the room, the topic that's been generating more and more discussion as this season has gone on. Trade speculation. Yeah, I said it. Trade speculation has been swirling around this player throughout the entire campaign, and it's not just coming from random fans on social media. Credible insiders and respected analysts are starting to openly question whether this player will even be on the Bears roster in 2026. Kevin Fishbane of The Athletic, one of the most plugged-in Bears reporters in the business, recently wrote that this player is sure to be a talking point this winter, and he doesn't appear convinced that there's a long-term future here in Chicago. According to Fishbane's analysis, if the Bears do decide to move this player, it would be because he's simply not as much of a fit in this offense as Rome Odunze, Luther Burden, and Colston Loveland appear to be. And here's the brutal reality. His current role wouldn't be in line with the massive contract he's carrying. Think about that for a second. We're paying this guy elite money to be a number one receiver. But if he's not performing like a number one receiver, and if the younger guys are actually better fits for what we're trying to do offensively, then what's the point of keeping him around at that price tag? But here's where it gets really complicated, and this is the part that makes any potential trade extremely difficult to pull off. This player signed a 4-year, $110 million extension with the Bears back in July of 2024. That deal runs all the way through 2029, which means we're on the hook for a massive amount of guaranteed money. Even if Ryan Poles and the front office decide that moving on is the right basketball decision, executing that trade is going to be incredibly challenging. As Fishbane pointed out in his analysis, even if the Bears come to the conclusion that this isn't working, what team is willing to take on that contract? What franchise out there is going to look at this season's production and say, yeah, we'll absorb that salary with the hope that things improve in year 2 of learning our playbook? That's the million-dollar question, literally. And it's why any potential trade scenario needs to be examined carefully. Now there's been some speculation that the Cleveland Browns could be a potential landing spot. The Browns are a team that's desperately searching for playmakers on offense, a franchise that's invested heavily in the quarterback position with Deshaun Watson, but hasn't surrounded him with enough weapons to be successful. They've got cap space to work with. They've got draft capital to potentially sweeten a deal, and they've got a coaching staff that might believe they can unlock the potential that we've seen in flashes but haven't seen consistently this season. Imagine this scenario. The Bears and Browns work out a trade after the season where Cleveland takes on the contract in exchange for draft compensation. Maybe it's a second-round pick. Maybe it's a package of mid-round selections. The Bears would be taking a financial hit in terms of dead cap money, but they'd also be freeing up future cap space and opening up more opportunities for the younger receivers to develop. Meanwhile, the Browns would be betting that a change of scenery, a different offensive system, and a quarterback like Watson who's got a strong arm and can push the ball downfield would help this receiver rediscover the form that made him a star with the Carolina Panthers. Before this player came to Chicago, he spent the first 5 seasons of his career in Carolina, where he consistently put up big numbers despite playing with subpar quarterback situations. He's a University of Maryland product who came into the league as a first-round pick and immediately showed he belonged at this level. In Carolina, he proved he could be a legitimate number 1 receiver, someone who could win on the outside, create separation, and make plays after the catch. That's the player the Bears thought they were getting when they made that blockbuster trade back in March of 2023. And that's the player who showed up in year 1 when he posted that incredible stat line of 96 catches for over 1,300 yards. But year 2 has been a completely different story. And now we're at a crossroads. Do the Bears stick with this player, hope that the chemistry with Caleb Williams improves in the offseason, and trust that a new coaching staff can better utilize his skill set? Or do they cut their losses, take the financial hit, and move on while his trade value still has some semblance of respectability? It's not an easy decision, and there are legitimate arguments on both sides. On one hand, you could argue that giving up on a player of this caliber after one down season is premature. Chemistry between quarterback and receiver takes time to develop, especially when you're dealing with a rookie signal caller. Maybe with a full offseason of work together, with a new offensive coordinator who can design plays that maximize his strengths, things click in year 3, and we see a return to that elite production from his first season in Chicago. On the other hand, you could argue that the fit just isn't right, that the younger receivers are better suited for what this offense wants to do, and that the massive contract makes him a luxury we can't afford when there are so many other holes to fill on this roster. Personally, I think the Bears are going to seriously explore trade options this offseason. Ryan Poles has shown that he's not afraid to make tough decisions, that he's willing to admit when something isn't working and pivot accordingly. If there's a team out there willing to take on the contract and give us reasonable draft compensation in return, I think Poles pulls the trigger. And if that team ends up being the Cleveland Browns, it would make a lot of sense from both sides. The Browns get a proven playmaker who could thrive in their system, and the Bears get draft capital and cap flexibility to continue building around Caleb Williams with younger, cheaper options. Now, I want to hear from you. Do you think the Bears should trade DJ Moore this offseason? Would you be okay with sending him to Cleveland or another team if it meant getting draft picks in return and opening up opportunities for Rome Odunze and the younger receivers? Or do you think we should give him another year to develop chemistry with Caleb and see if things improve with a new coaching staff? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because this is a huge decision that's going to shape the direction of this franchise for years to come. At the end of the day, I'm optimistic about where we're headed as a team. We've got a franchise quarterback in Caleb Williams who's going to keep getting better. We've got young talent at receiver that's starting to emerge. We've got a general manager in Ryan Poles who's proven he can build a roster. If moving on from DJ Moore is what it takes to maximize our potential and build a championship contender, then I trust that decision. But it's going to be fascinating to watch how this all plays out over the next few months. If you want to stay locked in on all the latest Bears news, trade rumors, and insider analysis, make sure you're subscribed to Bears News Fan Report. Hit that bell icon so you never miss an update, and smash that like button if this breakdown gave you some food for thought. We're here every single day, bringing you the content you need to stay ahead of the curve on everything Chicago Bears. Thanks for watching, and as always, bear down.